Lord Shiva Mahadeva ki jai. Gopishwar Mahadeva ki jai. Śiva-rātri ki jai. So, the Shiva Tattva book, one of the greatest books. Late start. That must be because Lord Shiva has his time in the evening.
We're going to go to midnight.
It must be.
All nighter. Some water, Maharaj?
No, I don't. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Itadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukham karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurun dinataranam vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Namo mahabhadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Trishe Namaha. Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalo Kalmashanashaya Janava Pataye Namaha. Bande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Gaudaudaye Pushpavanto Chitro Shamdo Tamonudo Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya. Vrindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipful, beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta. Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipful, beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Astatarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Ashto Tarasata Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I am offering my Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. And I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and to all of the Vaishnavis. So today is Śiva-rātri. And we will read about Lord Shiva Mahadev. If we don't read about Lord Shiva Mahadev on Śiva-rātri, ooh, not good, right? I mean, any of our great acharyas, we have to mention them on their appearance and disappearance days. Otherwise, it's an offense. Srila Bhaktivinoda Bharati Maharaj would stress that all the time. You can see it practically every single time that he's speaking. He says that we receive so much mercy from them on directly on their appearance and disappearance days. So what to speak of Lord Shiva Mahadev, who is a very important personality. So, and to understand his tattva, this is essential. So such discussions have to go on. Now, I'm reading chapter 1 of this Shiva Tattva book of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. So the title of the chapter is Lord Shiva's Highest Benediction. So once the great sage Narad Muni traveled to the abode of Lord Shiva, and he began to glorify him, saying, "You are very near and dear to the Supreme Lord Krishna." So, you know which book this is coming from?
Yes.
Yes, Brihad Bhagavatamrita. In the journey of Narada Muni trying to find who? He was on a quest. The greatest recipient of Krishna's mercy. And he began from a king in South India. And then the king said, "No, not me. You have to go to Lord Indra." So he went to Indra. Indra said, "No, I'm not the one." And then from there, I'm trying to remember the sequence. Was it Lord Shiva next? No. Anyway, that will become apparent. So when Narada Muni traveled there to Lord Shiva's abode, he began to glorify him. And he was saying, "Oh, you are very near and dear to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Not only that, you are Krishna's manifestation. You are non-different from him. You can give liberation and also Krishna Prem, the rare jewel of transcendental love for Krishna." So hearing Narad glorify him in numerous ways, Lord Shiva became angry. And he said, "Your glorification of me is false. I am not at all dear to Sri Krishna." So Lord Shiva is actually more dear to Sri Krishna. Sorry, most dear. Actually, Lord Shiva is most dear to Sri Krishna, and therefore Krishna can give him services which he cannot give to anyone else. When the demigods and the demons were churning the milk ocean in order to obtain the nectar of immortality, the first substance produced was a powerful and dangerous poison burning the entire world. You know, whenever I hear this pastime, I always think of the Bangkok, Thailand airport. Have you gone through there?
Oh, yes.
Have you seen that as you're walking down all the different corridors and stuff, they have this amazing, what would you call it, diorama exhibition, like right in the middle. Everybody has to walk by it. And it's depicting who? It's depicting the demigods on one side and the demons on the other side. And they're holding on to the snake's body, Vasuki, right? And very colorful, beautiful, almost like Balinese, kind of art. So, yes, the first substance that came from that churning, it was a very dangerous, powerful poison burning the entire world. The demigods appealed to Sri Krishna, and he advised them to request Lord Shiva to drink the poison. Thus they worshipped Lord Shiva and they prayed, "Please save us, only you can protect us." So Lord Shiva collected the poison. Even just collecting the poison is an amazing feat. So he collected the poison, he took it in his mouth, but he hesitated to swallow it. Why would he hesitate to swallow it and keep it in his mouth?
Krishna says that as well.
Yes. So considering that Lord Krishna is in my heart, the poison will affect him. He therefore kept the poison in his throat, which was burned, and his neck turned the color blue, but a very beautiful bluish. Now, out of genuine humility, Lord Shiva told Narad, "I want to be his beloved devotee, but actually I am not. You know that I always wear ashes from the burial grounds and a garland of skulls. All my associates are ghosts and witches, so I am not qualified to be Krishna's dear devotee. If I am so dear to him, why would he have ordered me to engage with the mode of ignorance in the terrible function of destroying of the universe? If I am such a recipient of his mercy, why would he have ordered me to become Shankaracharya and preach a philosophy that is adverse to him?" What philosophy? Mayavad. Actually, although Lord Shiva expressed otherwise, it was because Shiva is so dear to Krishna that Krishna was able to give him the difficult task of appearing as Shankaracharya. Many people had been worshipping the Supreme Lord only to fulfill their selfish purposes, thinking, "Oh, simply by our worship of God, he will be pleased with us and he'll satisfy all our worldly desires." They worshipped him only so that he would rapidly arrange for all of their needs, not to please him. Lord Krishna thought, this is very dangerous. So he called Lord Shiva and he instructed him, "Such false devotees, they will create great disturbances. So keep them far away from me. Create a philosophy which teaches Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya, that the Absolute is true and this world is false. You should preach, all souls are Shiva, all souls are Brahma, all are one. You are Brahma, the impersonal Absolute. There is no need to worship any other God. You are the Supreme God." So this is the paraphrasing of what is the crux of the Mayavad philosophy. No need to worship any. You are the Supreme God. You are Brahma, the impersonal Absolute. So, reluctant, Lord Shiva asked Krishna, "Can you please tell someone else to do this? I am not qualified for this service." Then Krishna replied, "No, you will have to do this. In the entire world, I see no one else who is as capable." Now, feeling ashamed, Lord Shiva now told Narad, At last I had to agree to follow his order. So appearing as Shankaracharya, I preached everywhere. You are Brahma, you are Brahma, you are the impersonal Brahma. The entire world is false. I am so much regretting this. I know I have committed a great offense by causing so many people to be averse to Lord Krishna. Still, to carry out his order, I spread this doctrine. It is clear by the fact that he sometimes gives me such orders that I am not his dearest one. So that's the conclusion that Lord Shiva told to Narad. So Lord Shiva also expressed to Narad his regret in having given benedictions to Lord Krishna's enemies. To fulfill his Lord's desires, he had given benedictions to demons like Ravan, Vrikashur, Shalva, and Jayadratha. And thus, he had performed many activities that were seemingly opposed to Krishna and to Krishna Bhakti. So Narad Muni said, Master, please don't try to mislead me. I know that whatever you do is to please Lord Krishna and to assist him in his pastimes for the benefit of all beings. You told me that you have many times given benedictions to his enemies. I know that his enemies, as well as the enemies of his devoted cousins, the Pandavas, worship you for ill-motivated benedictions. I also know that you grant them benedictions, but those benedictions are not foolproof. So Narada's, he's pointing out how what Lord Shiva is telling is not really true in the ultimate sense. Yes, but those benedictions are not foolproof. They always have some loophole. Actually, you cheat these beneficiaries in order to please Lord Krishna. You are undoubtedly his dearest friend. So Shiva and Narad continued to discuss some historical incidents, which according to Shiva proved that he was not dear to Krishna. But according to Narad, it proved the opposite. Tirthaji, is that plug for the fan of the stove, is it plugged in the wall? No. Can you plug it in, please? Thank you. Okay, so now the next section is titled A Loophole. The great epic Mahabharata, it tells of King Jayadratha, one of the many demons who received such a clever benediction from Lord Shiva. Duryodhana, the paternal cousin of the 5 Pandava brothers, had given his sister Dushala in marriage to King Jayadratha. And therefore the king had also become like a brother-in-law of the Pandavas. So once Jayadratha tried to kidnap the Pandava's wife, Draupadi, desiring strongly to make her his own wife. Can you imagine that? Kidnapping the Pandava's wife. As he forced her onto his chariot, she admonished him, crying, I am the wife of the Pandavas. When they catch you, they will punish you and kill you. So Jayadratha's arrogance, it prevented him from hearing her. And he continued his abduction. Meanwhile, the sage Narad approached the Pandavas and informed them, Oh, I saw Jayadratha taking away Draupadi and she was weeping. 2 of the Pandavas, Bhima and Arjuna, immediately chased after Jayadratha. Bhima dismounted his chariot and ran faster than Jayadratha's horses. With his bow and arrows, Arjuna created a fire that surrounded the chariot of Jayadratha, who was then captured and could not move. Severely beaten by Bhima and arrested by Arjuna, Jayadratha was bound to the chariot and taken to where Yudhishthira Maharaj had been staying with Draupadi. Bhima and Arjuna spoke to Yudhishthira, their respective senior brother. Bhima urged him, "I want to kill Jayadratha. Please order me to kill him." Then in support of Bhima, Arjuna said, "Jayadratha has performed a heinous act and should be killed." King Yudhishthira replied, "The offense was committed against Draupadi. We should take the case to her, and we will do whatever she orders." So when Jayadratha was brought at the feet of Draupadi, she mercifully told her husbands, "Don't kill him, forgive him. He is our brother-in-law. If you kill him, your cousin's sister will be widowed, and she will weep for the rest of her life." So Bhima and Arjuna then approached Lord Krishna and appealed to him, "What should we do? We have vowed to kill Jayadratha, and now Draupadi tells us to forgive him." So Krishna replied, "For one who has been honored, dishonor worse than death." So Arjuna then shaved King Jayadratha's head, leaving 5 patches of hair. And he shaved one side of his face, leaving the other side unshaven. Jayadratha felt humiliated, and after being released by Bhima and Arjuna, he considered it better to have died. He thought, "I will somehow take revenge." And thus absorbed, he went to Gangotri in the Himalayas, and he undertook a severe type of penance to please Lord Shiva. After some months, he gave up all food, water, and bodily activities, and he was about to die. At this point, Lord Shiva came before him and asked what boon he wanted as a result of his austerity. Jayadratha replied, "I want revenge against the Pandavas. I want to defeat and kill all of them." But Lord Shiva told him, "You can defeat the Pandavas, but only Yudhishthira, Bhima, Nakul, and Sahadev, not Arjuna." Jayadratha said, "If you cannot benedict me to my full satisfaction, then please grant that neither Arjuna nor anyone else will be able to kill me." Then Lord Shiva replied, "I can grant you this. If your head is severed and it falls on the ground, the person who caused this will die immediately. Your life will be saved and your head will rejoin your body. You may be killed hundreds of thousands of times, but you will not die. On the other hand, if your severed head falls into whose hands? Your father's hands, and if he throws it on the ground, then you will die." Jayadratha was satisfied, thinking, "My father would never do this." So when the battle of Kurukshetra began, Jayadratha took the side of the Pandavas' enemy, Duryodhana. One evening, during the battle, as the sun was setting, Jayadratha's father was absorbed in prayer and making an offering of water to the sun god. Arjuna saw this opportune moment. Then, with the skillful release of an arrow, he severed Jayadratha's head from his body and caused it to fall into the hands of his meditating father. So this is like miles away from the battlefield. And Arjuna shoots his arrow, which severs Jayadratha's head on the battlefield, and then carries the head miles away to the place where the father is just about to do his oblations to the sun. It lands in his head, in his hands. So, yes. severed his head, and caused it to fall into the hands of his meditating father. Then, startled and without thought, Jayadratha's father tossed the head on the ground. Then, opening his eyes, he exclaimed, "What was that wet thing?" Then, seeing that he had just thrown his son's head, he began to cry, oh my son, you are now dead." So, that was the loophole in this case. This next section, a clever benediction. Envious of Krishna, and with a desire for the strength to destroy him, the demon Shalva, he also took shelter of Lord Shiva. He performed a severe type of austerity and ate no more than a handful of ashes daily. After 1 year, Lord Shiva became pleased with him and asked him to beg for a boon. I think nowadays in the Kali Yuga, with the bodies so... If somebody was eating nothing but ashes, they probably wouldn't last 2 or 3 days, right? Yeah.
Stomach poisoning.
So, after 1 year, Lord Shiva became pleased with him and asked him to beg for a boon. Shalva begged from Lord Shiva the gift of an airplane, saying, "This airplane should perform as I wish. It should be operated by my mind. On my order, it should go to heaven or anywhere I desire. In summer, it should be air-conditioned. If there was only 2 men, there should only be 2 seats. And if I want to travel with hundreds of thousands of persons, many seats should manifest. It should never crash due to the mechanical difficulty. And it should be equipped with all varieties of weapons."
It should never be canceled.
Yes. It should be dangerous and fearful to the Yadus. Right. Now Lord Shiva agreed. He agreed. And Shalva was helped by the demon Maya Danava to manufacture a mystical airplane that began to destroy Dwarka, Lord Krishna's abode. Shalva personally attacked from above, and his soldiers attacked on the ground. Headed by Pradyumna, the Yadu dynasty warriors fought with Shalva and his army, but they could not defeat him. Finally, Lord Krishna personally appeared on the battlefield. After much intense fighting on both sides and many mystic displays by Shalva, the Lord took up his disc. He cut off the demon's head and gave him liberation. So, in this way, the benedictions given by Lord Shiva to the enemies of Lord Krishna always have a weak point, a loophole. Lord Shiva is extremely clever, and he is always serving his Lord Sri Krishna. Narada knew this fact, and he wanted to publicize Lord Shiva's glories. So Shiva is very near and dear to Krishna and non-different from him. Try to always honor him, for he is Krishna's greatest devotee. Then he quotes the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 13th chapter, verse 16. You know part of this verse. Nimna ganam yata ganga, devanam achyuto yata, vaishnavanam yata shambhu, purananam idam tata. Just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, just as Lord Achyuta, Krishna, is the supreme among all deities, and just as Lord Shambhu, Lord Shiva, is the greatest of Vaishnavas, so Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Puranas. Now comes the principle of Shiva. Shiva Tattva. Now the principle of Shiva, Shiva Tattva, is extremely complex. This is the thing about it. I remember how Gurudev was telling, there's no other person that has such a tattva. Most tattvas are very straightforward, but Lord Shiva's tattva is very complex. So the principle of Brahma is not as complicated, because Lord Brahma is always a jiva. He's always a finite spirit soul. Sometimes when there is no qualified jiva, then Lord Vishnu, Krishna's expansion, personally takes the post of Brahma. But that is rare. So, Lord Shiva is not like that. He is not a finite soul. After passing through the 8 material coverings, and after crossing the Viraja, the river that divides the material world and the spiritual world, and the planet of Lord Brahma, the highest material planet, then one comes to the planet of Shiva. There, he is known as Sadashiv, who is a manifestation of Lord Vishnu. That's why we're fasting today, from Ekadasi, taking Ekadasi preparations, because Vishnu Tattva. So, but Lord Shiva's principle is very complex. Even in Gaudiya Mat, not every branch fasts. Remember? You heard that? Yeah. Well, but Gurudev chose to. Why? Because Sadashiv is Vishnu Tattva, and his manifestation is Gopishwar Mahadev. So, now, Shiva Tattva can be understood by the analogy of yogurt and milk. Yogurt is nothing but a transformation of milk. Is that true, Hatsagati? Oh, he's not there? Oh, okay. Because he makes the yogurt all the time here. So yogurt is nothing but a transformation of milk. Milk can become yogurt. But can yogurt be turned back into milk? I don't think I've seen that any time. No. Yogurt cannot become milk. This analogy is found where? Yes, in the Brahma Samhita. And it is elucidated in Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary. Jiva Goswami says, quote, just as milk is transformed into yogurt by contact with a transforming agent, similarly, Sri Govinda, Lord Sri Krishna, accepts the form of Shambhu, Lord Shiva, in order to accomplish a specific purpose. The example of yogurt is actually given in order to convey the idea of cause and effect. Cause and effect, not the idea of transformation. That's the main principle in utilizing this analogy, is cause and effect. But it's not the idea of transformation. Sri Krishna is reality and cannot be transformed. So it is not possible for him to undergo any kind of distortion. A wish-fulfilling gem manifests many things according to one's desire, yet its constitutional nature remains untransformed. Sparshamani, touchstone, wish-fulfilling gem. Now, Rameshwar Mahadev is the title of the next section. Rameshwar Mahadev. Where was Rameshwar Mahadev?
At the very tip of India.
That's right. At the very tip. And that?
The tip of what?
The tip of India. Rameshwar Mahadev. So, when Sri Ramachandra was making the bridge to Lanka, he established a Shiva Linga, a deity form of Shiva called Rameshwar. All the common people began glorifying Lord Shiva, shouting, Rameshwar ki jai, you are Ram's Ishwara, you are the Lord of Ram. So the demigods were unsatisfied by this, and they announced through an aerial voice, Ramascha aso Ishwara, meaning Ram is God, and Shankar is also God. they are the same. So, first the ordinary people, then the demigods. Then hearing this, the Shiva Linga broke. Lord Shiva emerged from the Linga and told them all, "You are all foolish. You do not know my tattva, the established truths regarding my identity. Ram is my beloved and my God, and that is why I am called Ram Ishwar." Like Gopi Ishwar, same principle. The gopis are his Ishwar. Ram is his Ishwar. Now, the next section, granting perfect love. Lord Shiva eternally resides in Lord Krishna's abode, Vrindavan, where he manifests many forms to render devotional service to him. He resides in Vrindavan. And he resides there eternally. So the form of Gopishwar Mahadev was manifested by Lord Krishna's desire. When Krishna desired to perform his rasa dance, then Srimati Radhika, the embodiment of his pleasure potency, manifested from his left side, and Gopishwar Mahadev manifested from his right side. The form of Shiva who lives in Kashi or in Kailas in the material world is a partial manifestation of the original Sadashiv in Vrindavan. They are not the original. Partial expansions such as Pipaleshwar Mahadev, Bhuteshwar Mahadev, Rangeshwar Mahadev, and so on, they cannot award the benediction that can be attained by the mercy of Gopishwar, the highest perfection of love, namely Braja Prem. So, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has composed a prayer in his Vraja Vilas Stava as follows. Muda gopendrasyatmaja puja parishranga nidhaye spurad gopi vrindaryam iha bhagavantam pranaibi bhajad bishtayar bhaktyas vama bilasitam praptam achirad yamitere gopishwaram anudinam tam kila bhaje. So Raghunath Das Goswami is saying, I daily worship Gopishwar Mahadev, who is situated on the bank of the Yamuna. That very Gopishwar was worshipped with deep devotion by the gopis, and he quickly fulfilled their desire to attain a supremely precious jewel in the form of the embrace of the son of Nanda Maharaj, Krishna. That's the translation of this verse. So Srila Sanatana Goswami, the great Vaishnava saint who resided in Vrindavan near the old Sri Madan Mohan temple, he would go daily to see Gopishwar Mahadev at his temple. So that's a bit of a distance, right? Because, yes, he would go to see Gopishwar Mahadev at his temple. That's way down. Yeah, no, farther. No, the other way, the other direction. Where Gopishwar Mahadev is just past Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj's mutt. Just past there, on the same road, just a little bit distance up. And it's also just past Dir Samir. Dir Samir is before that. Then the mutt of Srila Puri Maharaj. And then comes Gopishwar Mahadev temple. But just very near to Gopishwar Mahadev's temple is Vamshivat. So, because Lord Shiva is guarding, right? So he's situated there. He's guarding the entrance to the Rasa Leela dance. And that began there at Vamshivat, when all the gopis were called and they arrived there. So, yes. So Sanatana Goswami, the great Vaishnava saint who resided in Vrindavan near the old Madan Mohan temple, he would go daily to see Sri Gopishwar Mahadev at his temple. Once, in his older years, Sanatana Goswami had a dream wherein Gopishwar Mahadev appeared and instructed him, "Now that you are old, please do not go through so much trouble to see me." And Sanatana Goswami replied, "I will continue to come. I cannot change this habit." Then Gopishwar Mahadev said, "Then I will come and I will stay very near to your residence," manifesting in Bangkhandi. So you know where that temple is, Bangkhandi Mahadev? When you come from Rup Sanatan temple, you come out of the main entrance, which is on the Seva Kunj Gully. And then you turn right when you come out of that door. You go towards Banki Bihari Road. There's a T-junction there, Banki Bihari Road. And then if you turn right there, you go to Banki Bihari Temple. But if you turn left there, then it brings you all the way down to Loy Bazaar. But far before Loy Bazaar, there's a crossing there. And that's where our fruit stand is, and that's where the milk place is. And if you turn right there, then that brings you to another market there. So right there in that place, as you're coming down the road, directly in front of you is the mandir of Bangkhandi Mahadev. Bangkhandi Mahadev. And there's a very ancient, Śīla there, thousands of years old, because Lord Shiva manifested that Shivalingam there for Sanatana Goswami. So yeah, you can go there. So the very next day, Sri Gopishwar Mahadev appeared in Bangkhandi halfway between his original temple and Srila Sanatana Goswami's residence at Madan Mohan. So seeing this, Sanatana Goswami became overwhelmed with transcendental ecstasy, and from that day on, he visited Bangkhandi Mahadev every day. Wherever he was, Srila Sanatana Goswami could not live without his beloved Lord Shiva, Gopishwar Mahadev, and Bangkhandi Mahadev in Vrindavan, and Kameshwar Mahadev in Kamyavan forest. In Govardhan, he would stay near his very dear friend Chakreshwar Mahadev, who acquired the name when he served Govardhan Hill and the Brajvasis by holding up his trident like a chakra, protecting them from the torrential deluge sent by King Indra. Prior to this, Lord Shiva had asked Sri Krishna for the boon to witness his childhood pastimes. So Krishna ordered him to situate himself in Nandagaon in the form of a, yes. So that's why it's called Nandishwar Hill also. Nandishwar Hill. And in Varshana, who became the hill in Varshana? Brahmaji. That's why it has four heads. The hill has four parts. But in Nandagaon, it's called Nandishwar Hill. And therefore, because Brahma is so near to Radhika, he is also our Gurudev. We honor Lord Shiva as a great Vaishnava and as Guru. We do not worship him separately. We observe Śiva-rātri, Lord Shiva's appearance day, and we glorify him in connection to his relationship with Sri Krishna. Srila Sanatana Goswami has written in his Hari Bhakti Vilas that all Vaishnavas should observe Shiv Chaturdasi, that's today, Śiva-rātri. So it's right there in Hari Bhakti Vilas. All Vaishnavas should observe. Lord Shiva, in whom all good qualities reside, should certainly be honored by the observance of this day. So we offer our obeisance to Lord Shiva with prayers like this. Vrindavanavani Jaya Soma Mole Sanaka Sanandana Sanatana Naradedya Gopishvara Vrajavilasi Yugandri Padme Prema Prayacha Nirupadi Namo Namaste. O gatekeeper, this is from the book Sankalpa Kalpadruma. You know who wrote that book? Sankalpa Kalpadruma. Gurudev translated it. We have it. A translation of that. Small, yeah. Sankalpa Kalpadruma. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he says, O gatekeeper of Vrindavan, O Soma, all glories to you. O you whose forehead is decorated with the moon and who is worshipped by the sages headed by Sanak, Sanatana, Sanandana and Narada. O Gopishwar, desiring that you bestow upon me praying for the lotus feet of Shri Radha Madhava, who perform joyous pastimes in Brajadam, I offer obeisances unto you time and again. This is a very beautiful prayer. I always say that whenever I would go for darshan there, circumambulating, Gopishwar Mahadev, I would just repeat this prayer again and again. Prema Prayacha. Yes. Vrajavilasi Yugangri Padme. So, desiring that you bestow upon me praying for the lotus feet of Shri Radha Madhava, so he can bestow praying for the lotus feet of Shri Radha Madhava. Vraja Vilasi Yuga Angri Padme. That means the divine couple who are always playing so many pastimes in Braj. So bestow Prema Prayacha Nirupadi Namo Namaste. Please bestow upon me that prema. And that's why Gurudev also mentioned when he was in Fiji about Advaita Acharya, how Advaita Acharya is a combination of Gopishwar Mahadev, Sadashiv, and Mahavishnu. But because Gopishwar Mahadev, Sadashiv has become Gopishwar Mahadev, he can give Braja Prem. That was the question Gurudev was asking. Can he give Braja Prem? Yeah, of the Ras dance. Now, by Shiva's benediction, that's the next section. Now, a Brahmin in Kashi, Varanasi, once he prayed to Lord Shiva, I want to give my daughter in marriage, but I have no money. Please give me money. Then Lord Shiva told him, go to Vrindavan and meet with Srila Sanatana Goswami. You can ask him to give you some wealth for your daughter's marriage. So who told that Brahmin? Lord Shiva told. Then the Brahmin went to Vrindavan by foot, and he asked the villagers there for the whereabouts of a person named Sanatana Goswami. As they all knew him, they pointed out his residence. Srila Sanatana Goswami was practicing bhajan near the Yamuna River at Kaliya Hrad, the former abode of the very poisonous snake named Kaliya. Kaliya Hrad was close to the Yamuna, and therefore its surrounding area was full of sand. Srila Sanatana Goswami wore only a loincloth. He used to go begging door to door for a small amount of prasad, Krishna's food remnants, and he would take as his meal only one dry chapati with no salt. So the Brahmin arrived at his cottage, and he told him, I went to Shankar Mahadev, Lord Shiva, and he told me to meet you. He said, you will give me some wealth for my daughter's marriage. And Sanatana Goswami replied, I have no possessions. You can see that I have nothing but a loincloth. Then he thought, oh, Shiva cannot tell a lie. He is my bosom friend. So thinking of Lord Shiva and contemplating further, he remembered a touchstone he had once disregarded and then forgotten. Now he told the Brahmin, go to the Yamuna and remove some of the sand, and there you will find a touchstone. It is somewhere in the sand, though I don't remember where. Then the Brahmin found the jewel. He touched it to iron, and the iron turned into gold. He was very, very happy that Lord Shiva had told him to come to Vrindavan, and he thought with gratitude, my prayer has been answered by him. Then on the way home, however, his greed for money increased. And he began thinking, why did Sanatana Goswami keep the touchstone in the sand? It had no use there. He must have still more valuable jewels. He thus returned, and Sanatana Goswami asked him, why have you come back? Then he replied, I've come because I know that you have more valuable jewels than this. And Sanatana Goswami then said, go and throw the touchstone in the Yamuna. Then the Brahmin did so with all his power. And then Sanatana Goswami told him, come here, come here. He gave him the mantra. Which mantra? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And he said, I do not have worldly jewels, but I have transcendental jewels. The jewel of Lord Krishna and Sri Radha will come to you in a very short time. So remain here. Your daughter's marriage will take place automatically. Stay here and chant Hare Krishna. That Brahmin followed his instruction, and he became a very elevated saint. Yes. So, next chapter, chapter 2, the post and the person. Remember that? The post and the person. So Sri Narada desired to proclaim the glories of Lord Shiva. So as previously described, he praised Shiva as the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna and most dear to him. And Lord Shiva became upset by hearing those praises. So then Shiva related a number of incidents which, according to him, were evidence that he was not dear to Krishna at all. So now Lord Shiva compared himself to Srila Maharaj, the famed devotee of Lord Nrsingadev, described in Srimad Bhagavatam. He told Narad, Sri Prahlad Maharaj is superior to me, and it is he who is the dear devotee of the Lord. However, Prahlad Maharaj cannot enter Sri Krishna's transcendental abode, Vrindavan, whereas Lord Shiva resides there eternally as Gopishwar. Shiva serves Sri Krishna personally in numerous ways. He and his wife Parvati Devi meditate on Ashtakaliya Leela, Lord Sri Krishna's confidential eightfold daily pastimes. These secret pastimes are very confidential. Yet, both Shiva and Parvati are able to meditate upon them. So Shiva is hundreds of thousands of times superior to and more worshipable than Sri Prahlad Maharaj. And yet, artful Shiva declared Prahlad Maharaj to be superior. Why did he do so? In one sense, Prahlad Maharaj is superior, and in another sense, he is not. We can reconcile this by considering the two. So as Gopishwar, he resides eternally in Vrindavan. As Hanuman, he always associates with and serves Lord Ram. And as Bhima, he always serves Lord Krishna. Being combined together, then in this present age of Kali Yuga, they become Madhvacharya, our Sampradaya Guru. So from the point of view of Lord Shiva's function as the god of annihilation, and also that of Brahma and Lord Shiva are not ordinary human beings, but their posts are like that of the president or prime minister of a nation, wherein the man representing the post has to perform a certain defined job. So both as the post and the person, Shiva is superior to Brahma. Lord Shiva is an expansion of Lord Vishnu, but sometimes a jiva may become Shiva's expansion, known as Rudra. If a man purely performs the duty for 100 births, he may become Brahmaji. Imagine Varnashram for 100 births. In other words, he may attain the position or the post of Brahma. In turn, when a function of Shiva in his manifestation as Rudra. So no small endeavor. Shiva's post, therefore, is superior to that of Brahma. And this is also evidence that Shiva is more powerful than Brahma. Now comes a very interesting part. The duty of destruction. What is the function of Lord Shiva's post? And why is it superior to that of Lord Brahma? One reason is that Brahma cannot execute pralaya, the complete destruction of the universe, a very dangerous thing, whereas Shiva can do so. Shiva's function as destroyer is similar to that of a, remember the analogy given here? His function as the destroyer is similar to that of a farmer who plants and cultivates a large area of wheat. The farmer carefully waters and he nourishes the crop, guarding it from animals, and after 5 or 6 months, the wheat matures and ripens. Then, either by hand or by machine, the farmer harvests the plants and carefully removes the grains from their shafts. The rest of the plant matter becomes refuse, subject to rotting and attracting disease, vermin, and snakes. So therefore, the farmer sets fire to it and burns it. You know, during Kartik, when we go on the buses, we see various fields where the farmers are burning it. You see lots of smoke. So that's what's happening. Because if they leave it, then it will become refuse. It'll rot, and it'll attract disease and vermin and snakes. So, just as the farmer extracts the grains from the plants, and here, this is pretty amazing, Lord Shiva extracts the eternal spirit souls from their material bodies and from the world. He does that. At the time of annihilation, he creates an inferno, setting the entire universe on fire, but the spirit souls are not destroyed. There are 2 kinds of universal devastations, one at the end of Lord Brahma's day, and one at the end of his life. So at the end of his day, which he gives the number of years here, 4,320 million, okay? 4,320 million solar years. So at the end of his day, Lord Brahma's day, he rests in a mystic sleep within the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And all the conditioned living entities enter as well. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. How many times we've been in the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu? How many times have we been in a material universe and had to go to the next universe, the next creation? We don't know, do we? So then, while the entire universe is submerged in water, the living entities rest in their subtle bodies within the transcendental body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. They await the start of the next day of Brahma, the next material creation or manifestation. Some of them become liberated and others do not. So when Lord Brahma completes the 100 celestial years of his life, then Lord Shiva again performs this duty of destruction. At that time, all the spirit souls enter into the body of Katha Vishnu or Mahavishnu. Imagine, all of the spirit souls enter there. At the end of each day of Lord Brahma, all souls enter Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and at the end of Brahma's life, even the millions of manifestations of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu enter Karnadakshaya Vishnu along with the spirit souls. At the time of creation, Karnadakshaya Vishnu generates innumerable manifestations of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu in each and every universe, right? And at the time of complete annihilation, they enter back into his body. So Lord Shiva is not a living entity, but he is not in the category of Lord Vishnu, but he is also not in the category of Lord Vishnu directly. He is much more powerful than any living entity, even up to Lord Brahma. However, he is not equal to Lord Vishnu, because he is almost as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can see the three phases of time, past, present, and future. One of his eyes is like the sun, and another is like the moon. He also has a third eye, located between his eyebrows. It is from this third eye that he generates fire, and he employs it at the time of the universal destruction. Yeah, it would be hard for modern day special effects movie try to show that, where the fire comes and it destroys the entire universe. So seen from this perspective, the destroyer, Lord Shiva cannot serve Sri Krishna directly, because having renounced all responsibilities and concerns of the world, including occupations like that of Brahma and Shiva, and who constantly hear about, glorify, and remember Lord Krishna, they take birth in this world as pure devotees, like Prahlad Maharaj. This was told by Lord Shiva to Sri Narada.
So Prahlad Maharaj had previously been Brahma and Shiva in many births, right?
I've never heard that.
I thought that's what you just said.
No. It says, so it just says, these souls who are liberated after hundreds of thousands of lifetimes of Shiva, I suppose from there you could take it that they've also renounced those occupations, and who constantly hear about, glorify, and remember Lord Krishna, they take birth in this world as pure devotees like Prahlad Maharaj. This was told by Lord Shiva to Sri Narada. So Prahlad Maharaj has nothing to do with this world, nothing to create or demolish. He rejected all such affairs as insignificant. Although he had inherited a large kingdom, it was controlled, but his senses were totally absorbed in the transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord. He was always engaged in hearing the name and glories of the Lord, singing. So devotees in Prahlad's category, they have no need to approach Lord Krishna's manifestations like Lord Nrsingadev or Lord Ram, for the Lord personally comes to them in these forms. So Lord Shiva told Sri Narad that because he is always engaged in the post of controlling the universe, he can neither see nor offer services to the Lord daily, as Prahlad Maharaj. As Prahlad Maharaj sees Lord Val's manifestations of the Supreme Lord, who regularly give Prahlad his divine association and the opportunity to serve and offer obeisances at his lotus feet. So although both Brahma and Shiva are actually superior in bhakti to Prahlad, their posts involve contact with the three gunas, or the modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. So the role of Lord Brahma is creation and procreation in Rajagun, the mode of passion, in Rajagun, the mode of passion. Lord Shiva's role of demolition and dissolution is in Tamagun, the mode of ignorance. It is for this reason that they are called guna avatars, incarnations of the material qualities. So Prahlad Maharaj is nirgun. He is transcendental to the three modes of nature. He has nothing to do with activities in material goodness, passion, and ignorance, by which this world is shackled. So Lord Shiva is also beyond the three modes of nature, but he adopts the mode of ignorance, tamagun, to efficiently perform his function. So the next section is titled The Personal Associate, but we've now come to the ending point. Even that's a little over the ending point. But today we were able to hear this Lord Shiva Katha, which is very wonderful, very wonderful. Imagine, we've been extracted from our bodies, from the material universe, for billions and trillions of years by Lord Shiva. Because he's not only talking about humans that he's extracting, all the jivas. So just imagine how powerful. He can extract them and then place them into the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, or Mahavishnu even. Lord Shiva is inconceivable. But that's the viewpoint of his, post. But the viewpoint of his personality as the personal associate is very sweet. Very sweet. So,
are these posts, personalities, expansions of the Sadashiva? Are the Sadashiva expand as those personalities, or are they personalities who...
Well, we know that Gopishwar Mahadev is not like a Rudra expansion. That's directly, Sadashiv, and became Gopishwar Mahadev. We know that. But you're asking about
the Shivas who are functioning as Rudras in this world.
Yeah.
What is their eternal relationship, if any, with Sadashiva? They come and go? Or?
Well, first of all, those Rudras, as we've heard a couple of times already, they're Jiva Tattva, as Gurudev calls finite beings. They're not the infinite Supreme Personality of Godhead, they're finite beings. So, you're asking about their relationship with the original Lord Shiva?
Yeah.
Yes, they are expansions. They are expansions, but they're jivas that expand. what is it, nine Rudras that were created? The 9 Rudra forms from Lord Brahma's forehead, like that. Yes.
But the individuals don't have necessarily an eternal relationship with Sadashiva.
No. Sadashiv will not be there. You're talking about the Rudra expansions, right? Yeah, that's not an eternal post. It's a temporary post, the Rudra forms. In fact, I think it's like, just like the Manus are also periodically appearing. So in different days of Brahma, even in shorter periods, universal time, they're also appearing. And then they also go back into the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. You know? So there's not an eternal relationship, right, with Sadashiv, because, you know, Sadashiv has his planet, right? We just heard that. Sadashiv has his own planet, and obviously he has some associates in that planet. But Sadashiv's original eternal form is Gopishwar Mahadev. And we cannot say that Gopishwar Mahadev is not in eternal form, that once he did not exist, but now he exists. No. That's the eternal position of Sadashiv in Braj, in Braja. So that's enough for today. And we could stay here till midnight, but I think that would create some difficulties. Yeah. But I'd have to hand it to one of you, because I wouldn't have the strength to do that. So Shri Gopishwar Mahadeva ki jai, Śiva-rātri ki jai, Jai Shri Sadashiv Gopishwar Mahadeva ki jai, Gaura Premanande. You can sing.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe, Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe, Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe, Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe, Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe.
Jai
Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gora Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Radha Govinda Ji Radha Vinod Bihari Ji Ki Jai. Jai Shri Śiva-rātri Book Ki Jai. Lord Shiva Mahadeva Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Gurudeva Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya Cha. Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namah. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.